feel like the market was catfishing us. They're like, ooh, we're all pretty. They're like, sight, you're gonna go back to normal now. This is what you really get. I'm gonna take off my filter. Welcome to our market moment. Scott and I just wanted to start 30-minute chat every week just to talk about the market. It is freaking crazy right now. There's so much crap that's going on. And I know you have a lot of questions. So we just want to hop on every week, answer those questions, address it. And in case you're wondering who I am, I'm Estrella Gallegos with eXp Realty. I serve the Denver metro area. And just to kick it off and just kind of let you all know a little bit about who we are, I thought it'd be cool for us to talk about, like, what is our superpower? So my superpower, I would say from a real estate perspective, is I love data and facts. So real estate can be like super emotional. And before I was in real estate, I was like a full-on data nerd. So I really bring to a conversation with my clients, like, what's really happening with the data? Like, I know things feel really scary and creepy right now, especially in October, because we're in creepy season, but let's get all of those like housing scaries out of the way. And let's really talk about the stats and the facts. So that's my superpower. Scott, what's your superpower?
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks, Estrella, for having me on. I agree with her opening line. We have a lot of people that reach out and ask us a lot of questions. And so in conversation, Estrella came up with the idea of like, hey, let's just create some content. We'll send it out there. We'll try to reach more of the masses on top of having all of the individual conversations. And so I'm Scott. I'm a loan officer with Synergy One Lending. I have been in mortgages since the early 2000s. And so almost 20 years, even though I took a little bit of a break right around 2009. So I've seen the crash of 2008 and 9. I was kind of a part of that. So at some point I can articulate the why behind that market. I stepped out for maybe 5 or 6 years, and then I got back into mortgages in 2015. And so, yes, this is a very unique industry. Obviously, both markets, real estate and mortgages, are very volatile right now. So we just appreciate the opportunity to be on a platform, share some information, keep people connected. My superpower, when you think about mortgages, and I mean, it's percentages, it's numbers, it's loan programs and guidelines. All of those things are great. I think for the average consumer, it's all about the experience. And we do a really, really good job of creating an experience for the consumer. We do a lot of personal touches and a lot of Zoom calls, and we show our faces. And I think in that, we're very educational. We explain the why behind things, but we can do any type of loan product, and we're great at guidelines and all of those things. But the consumer has got to feel something, and we really kind of hold our hat on it, on an experience that we're trying to create for them. We wanted to talk a little bit again about, I guess, each market and how mortgages and real estate are, play on each other's good times and bad times. And, the magic question that I always get constantly is like, dude, what is happening with these rates, and what is the market doing, and what is it going to do in the future? And there is not a real estate agent or a loan officer alive today that has ever seen a market like this. So to have interest rates double within a 9-month period has never happened in the history of our market. So wild. Mm-hmm. So what that does for the mortgage world and how that impacts Estrella and her real estate world, obviously kind of go hand in hand. So what is happening with rates, and why is it happening? Is a couple of components. It's actually a few different components, but inflation is the main driver of our rates. So we know as an economy, the way we combat inflation is by raising interest rates. Now, when the government, or when we raise mortgage rates, or when we raise interest rates, we're not actually raising the mortgage rates. We're raising short-term rates like bank loans and credit cards and car loans and RVs and all those other rates. Unfortunately, like mortgages do kind of follow suit. So because of inflation is high, and we know we need to combat that, we're going to raise our interest rates to try to lower and stop the inflation mark. So until you start to see inflation peak and start to come down, we're going to follow suit. And this isn't just the US, this is worldwide. So other countries across the world are doing the same thing. So even though we have what's happening here in the US, there are world economic indicators that drive that inflation number as well. So that's the number one. Then you start to look at mortgage-backed securities along with the stock market and the war in Ukraine. There's a lot of things that are driving it, but inflation is the number one. And the fact that we've been living off of artificial rates for probably close to 10 years, but for sure the past 3 years ever since the pandemic. So we knew we really only had one choice to go with it, which is going to be up. The magic question is, when is it going to stop? When is it going to start to course correct and go back down? And that's just kind of everybody's opinion on what we think could happen. So
I feel like the market was catfishing us in this like COVID market. They were like, ooh, we're all pretty. They're like, psych, we're going to go back to normal now. This is what you really get. I'm going to take off my filters. I think that's what those like artificially low rates and all this crazy stuff was, like a big old filter, like a Snapchat or Instagram filter.
And nobody could have seen the pandemic, right? Nobody saw COVID coming. And when that happened, we had no choice but to drive rates as low as we could to get the consumer to go out and spend money to drive the economy. Man, I mean, that's just like historically in the twos on an interest rate is never going to happen again, like unless another pandemic, global catastrophe happens. Like it's just
we're not going to talk about that.
No, and it's not sustainable. So we got to get used to like where we are now, where it's going to settle, where we're going to hang out, and then there's the consumer, the average person, just got to get kind of comfy with it.
100%. And on the housing side, I think that we're starting to see the filter come off, right? Like the veil is lifting. And there's a lot of news that's happening right now about this like housing crash and everything. And again, I'm the big data person. So I was just looking at like the stats. And what's kind of really interesting is like, it's pretty normal, which is very boring from like a news perspective. Like what news anchor wants to go on and be like, hey, everybody, the housing market's back to normal. Like, it's just not like enticing and people don't want to look at that. So I just thought I'd like throw out some numbers because that's who I am. One of the things that I thought was really interesting as we start to see this migration in the market is that in the past 7 days, we've had about 1,700 homes do a price reduction. What I hear when I see that kind of stuff is that the sellers haven't quite caught on that they're not going to have 500 offers sitting on the table. And so they're coming in out the gate a little high. And they're like, oh, well, let's just see what's going to happen. Well, the bad thing about that is when they're not listening to their agent or their agent's not looking at the market, they're coming out the gate pretty high. And because of that, coupled with the interest rates, just seeing some crazy increases over the past, I would say not even months, weeks, days, like even hours, I feel like sometimes. But, when they're seeing all of those types of things, then the buyer is like, you know what, homie, like, yes, I could afford $650,000 last week. It just doesn't look right to me. And that's where, you and I partner and we kind of look at things together and say, all right, buyer plus seller, like if we were to buy down that rate and let's negotiate that, like, what does that look like? How can that $650,000 house be within your price range? So I thought that was really interesting seeing that price reduction, because it just tells me that the average real estate agent and even the average consumer isn't quite understanding what's happening in the market. And that's why it's really important as a listing agent and as a seller to really understand that just coming out the gate. You don't want to sit on the market for too long. But the rest of these numbers, Scott, did you have something you want to add?
No, I was just gonna spot on with that. And I mean, it best because you're having that conversation as a listing agent with your clients. The conversation you were having in March is the complete opposite than the conversation you're having today, right? That 100%. Was the high sellers market with a lot of offers and overbidding and extra, cash to the closing table just because supply was so low and demand was so high and rates were good. And then we shift into this market, which is, a lot of supply, The demand is still there, but the consumer is now hesitant a little bit more, and it completely shifted into a buyer's market. Now, the same seller isn't used to that yet, right? So they're still thinking that this is going to be a multiple bid offer and we're going to crush it. And you as the real estate professional has to like navigate that conversation. Your entire presentation has to pivot to the new world. And it makes it even more important to price your home accordingly and market accordingly. And there is a strategy now in how to sell, whereas March, like my 4-year-old daughter could have sold something. It's
like they were like, do you have a pulse?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. You can sell my house.
Yeah. So
that's just not the case anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%. And, when I look at the rest of the numbers and I look at like average close price and I compare that to this same time last year, just to let you all know, the stats that I'm going to be using are September as a whole, since it's the first week in October. So it's a really good time to just compare last month's information. But the average close price last month for September 2022 was about $658,000 in the Denver metro area. So $658,000 is still almost $100,000 more than what we saw last year. Yep. So even though we're starting to see a little bit of pulling back and the interest rates are starting to normalize things a little bit, last year we were at $582,000. So you look at those numbers that yes, the buyers are starting to they're starting to have a lot more opportunities than they did maybe in March, but the prices are still increasing. Like we're still not seeing a point in which we're going to start to see a major scaling back of prices. Right. Now, we did see some price reductions, but that's price reductions because somebody came out the gate way too strong. So when you look at these numbers and you look at the actual meat and facts behind it, we're still starting to see some increase in pricing. So yes, the prices are increasing coupled with the interest rate. So as a buyer, you need to be more realistic on what you're looking at. As a seller, you also need to make sure that you're meeting the buyers where they're at. Now, when I look at the average days in market for September of this year, it was 17 days, which is really high. And I'm using air quotes for those of you just listening. It's really high because when we looked at March, like average days on market was like 2. It was insane, right? Which was unrealistic. Right. But if you compare that to last year, which was still crazy time, right? Like a very crazy time. September is when people are going back to school. September is when people really aren't doing a whole lot. Weather's changing. They're trying to capture all of those last sunny days here in Colorado. Last year in September, the average days on market was 20. So you compare 17 to 20, we're still doing better than we did last year. And I think a lot of that has to do with really educated professionals in the market partnering to make sure that they're going out the gate really strong. And then the last statistic that I just kind of want to throw out before we talk a little bit, like spill the tea on what's going on in both of our businesses, but the average shows to pending right now. So what that means is when you have a listing on the market, how many shows on average in the Denver metro area does it take before you go under contract? And right now we're sitting at 17.4, which I know 0.4 is kind of weird, but they take an average, it's math. But so let's just say 18. So when you're going on the market and you're looking at like how many days or how many showings I need to have before I can realistically expect to go under market, we're looking at about 18. Is what I would communicate. Obviously, if you want to know the specifics of your market, your area, your neighborhood, like hop in my DMs, drop a comment. I can get that information for you. But that's just like from the pure stats, I feel like it's pretty normal. It's not very sensational. Like I'm not going to whiz bang you and do all of the lights, but it's actually pretty normal. And for the most part, better than it was last year.
Yeah. And what's interesting about all of that, those are great stats. And you use that word normal, like we just haven't been used to normal, like
right.
Homes getting on the market and having 18 offers within the first like 3 hours. So it's also an understanding that if it does take 18 offers, understand that 18 offers aren't going to come on the first weekend. It's right. going to come a little bit lower. And homes are seeing a decrease in price, but that's because they were probably priced wrong. We're still seeing appreciation. We're just getting normal. Like
Yeah.
Appreciation at 15% is not normal, but that's what we got used to. That's what we assumed was normal. So we have to
Right.
reprogram our brains. Rates at 2s or 3s were normal. Now they're not. We have to reprogram our brains. The amount of time that it takes to sell a house is getting normal, but we're just not used to it, which is what we're going through that growing pain now, right? We're going through that adjustment of, well, I don't like the new normal. Well,
yeah,
the new norm's here. So we have to learn to adjust and kind of pivot along with it.
And Scott, so I'm going to just kind of address the big elephant in the room. Like you were part of the crash. Like I was in a completely different industry when that happened. I was a consumer who had my house drastically. I lived in Green Valley Ranch, which was one of the hardest hit areas. But as a lending professional, if you're comparing that time to this time, like what can you say to somebody who might be scared to step into the market?
Yeah. We could probably do an entire segment on 2008 versus 2022.
I'm going to write that down. We're going to do that topic.
We could probably circle back on some stuff because we got to understand like the why behind 08. And it had nothing to do with inflation. It wasn't the current conditions that we're in right now. It was really bad loans that we wrote, right? So we can talk more about that, but that's what drove it. And the differences of that market and this market are again, just two completely different beasts. And so what we're seeing, I feel in our market, it goes back to the word you're using. We're normalizing ourselves. We're normalizing the cost of borrowing money and the rate at which homes are going on the market and coming off the market and people are turning them. Like we're just getting back to normal because everything before that has not been there. The pros and cons of what you should be doing today, right? Again, in 2008, homes, folks really didn't have too much of a choice. If they were put into some of those bad loans and those loans turned on them as fast as they did, you couldn't catch up. And again, we'll do a whole nother segment on it. Today is different. There are no bad loans. There are 30-year fixed mortgages that you have to prove with your income. So if you can afford the house, and we have a saying, right? And it's love the home and like the rate. So fall in love with the house, fall in love with the community and the neighborhood, and understand you're going to refinance that rate someday. But as long as you can afford it and you feel like your job is secure, you can understand that you're going to live to fight another day. You're going to live to get rid of that that maybe higher interest rate than you're used to. You're going to be able to suppress that a little bit. The benefits of ownership still are going to outweigh a renting scenario. So maybe another segment to explain the why in 2008 and the why in 2022. Be happy to do that maybe next week or any other time. Yeah.
And if y'all are interested in that, like drop a heart, like say like, give it to me, baby, or whatever in the comments. Like, let us know that that's something you want us to talk about, and we'll definitely address that topic.
Yeah, great point. Like, all these things are little nuggets that we kind of talk about, and they're all super important, but all of them can have a way more in-depth conversation, a lot more detail. And so, as this is a blanket kind of information, if anybody needs very specifics or want to talk scenarios or wants, detailed numbers and whys, we can easily circle back with one-on-one phone calls and Zoom
100%.
or anything. 100%.
Yeah. Cool. So now let's spill the tea. All right. So I want to know, like, from a lending side, one, like what's like something that you're seeing an increase of why deals are falling apart? And two, what are you doing to get your buyers under contract?
Yep. Great. So why some like we're seeing, and I don't think it's really more or less I'm seeing, I think it's just why our industry is seeing things is, again, it goes back to the experience, right? How are you communicating to your consumer? If you are communicating and you're transparent and you're letting them know that the market and the environment that they're in, when they do go under contract on the home, they're not going to be shocked. Like, what I have seen from others is we've gone under contract and all of a sudden the loan officer tells the consumer the interest rate, they lose their minds and they see this big number, they freak out and they bail. And they're like, I'm out, I don't want this. And so education to consumer and keeping them up to speed with the changing times, because it's very volatile. What I'm telling you today is going to change tomorrow and the day after. And so we're seeing deals fall out just from a consumer sticker shock standpoint. That's kind of the main reason. How we've been able to help kind of consumers get under contract is one, with partnership with your real estate agent. So again, partnership with Estrella is how are you negotiating those terms for your buyer? And if now is more of a buyer's market and you're able to communicate that through your offer of, hey, we super love the home, we're really interested in it. And there's no secret that the rates are high. So a lot of times what we're seeing is articulation to get some seller credit and concessions that we can then use to buy down the interest rate lower than what the current market is, or we can put them into a 2-1 buy down program. There are some tools out there to ease the sticker shock a little bit, and you're able to ease that by taking advantage of the new buyer's market and getting concessions and love from the sellers. So we're seeing a lot of that on our contracts right now.
Yeah. And that's interesting. And I think that's, again, having a strong partnership, having a real estate agent who's going to help you throughout the process. And one of the things that I have been working with my buyers a lot right now is especially if they've been shopping for a little while, is let's go back to the lender. Let's make sure that with the new interest rates, you're still in this price point where you feel comfortable. So I think there's a lot of that, like education and communication, staying in constant communication with your lender through your buying process, because as we've talked about a couple of times in this call, like there have been multiple changes that have happened in the market. One of the really exciting thing for buyers is you have a lot more power and control and negotiation power. Whereas in the March market or the COVID market, you had to like give up your firstborn's college fund and the firstborn's DNA so they can clone it for future research, just so that you can get under contract. And that's not the case anymore. Now, one thing I want to just like point out too is we are shifting to where buyers have more power, but that doesn't mean you present insulting offers either. Correct. So it's still like, it's starting to come to an even market where yes, you're going to be able to do those negotiations on inspection. You're not going to have to waive those inspections. You're not going to have to do any of those appraisal gaps where you're paying a difference if the appraisal doesn't come in at contract value. You are now asking for buyer or seller credit to buy down your rate. You're able to have a contingency to sell your home. Even so, I do a lot of stuff with new construction, and even new construction, which hates having contingencies, are now starting to allow more contingencies. And those new constructions, like I've seen crazy rate buy downs, or not rate buy downs, but price reductions, $50,000. I saw this week where a new build cut the price of one of their inventory homes. So there's a lot of opportunity for buyers. If you're a seller, don't be scared. That just means that when you present your listing to the market, you have to know those things, and don't be insulted when you see at list price offers, because that's actually pretty good. And really understand, like, you have a real estate agent that's marketing your house, that's getting professional photography. Let's not talk about all of the ones that I see with the cell phone photos in the mirror. Like, it just, I cringe. Don't hire that agent. Like, do not. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of stuff. There's definitely an evening out of the market. It's still record low inventory. So there is a lot more demand than there is supply, but there is a lot more opportunity. So if you've been sitting on the fence, even though the rates are high, like Scott said, like, what do they say? Marry the house, state the rate, or whatever. I don't remember all those things, but do that. Like, get your house now. And even like, if you can afford it, do it. And then refinance later. Like, love your house, invest in your house. So I think that's where I'm seeing right now. Like, I think that there's been some really cool shifts. I'm really excited about it. I think that all of those, like, just have a pulse agents aren't going to really, like, in my opinion, survive this market. But that's why you hire people like Scott and I to come to help you through the process. One of your biggest financial purchases in your entire life. So you want to make sure that you have a strong team. So if you want to know more about anything that we talked about, you want to dig deeper, you want to ask some additional questions, Scott, where can people find you?
Yep, we can put my my email down there, my company website, on my cell phone, doesn't matter. Reach out to me if you want to.
Sweet. And then for me, obviously I'll drop my contact information in the comment or the notes below as well. And on all social media platforms, I'm at Selling with Star. That's at Selling with Star. So you can reach me on all of those. And that's it for this week's Market Moment. Thank y'all for hopping in. Thanks, Scott. Like, this was great. I love the conversation back and forth. I look forward to doing many more of these, and this is all about you. So let us know what you want to hear.
Yep. Super.
Have a good week, y'all.
Thanks, guys.